I know you weren't here during Marion Barber's time, but just hearing the news yesterday and the impact you saw it had on people in the building.
Yeah, definitely. Start with Skip Pete. Obviously Skip coached them as his position coach. Obviously, very well respected here in the building. I had a brief interaction with him back in 2008, the Pro Bowl. Had an opportunity to coach him in the Pro Bowl. I just recall him, really quiet personality, but just a dynamic player. His running style was something you always admired from afar, and just obviously was very sad to hear the news yesterday.
How often do you stay in touch with former players? It sounds like a lot of people around here at least had a touch point with Marion in recent years. Is that something that you've done throughout your career with certain players?
Yeah, definitely. I think the other part too is it's never enough. I think I've been very fortunate to do this for a long time. So it's cool to run into people you haven't seen in a long time, and especially in Dallas. I've run into some former players that just live here from early parts of my career too. So, but yeah, definitely, I think we all would think we could do a better job of that.
Do you think that players, when they leave a game, sort of need a touch point with the organization sometimes?
Well, I think that it definitely helps. I know just looking around the league and just through my own personal experiences, you have ambassador programs, and every organization's a little different. Obviously, we have a tremendous alumni connection here in Dallas. Not only former Cowboys, but really the whole National Football League and professional sports. This is a very attractive place to live, and so I think it's only natural to have that.
Micah was talking about how he's still switching between the defensive line and linebacker rooms during the day. Is anyone else on the team switching between position rooms for meetings like that, and how have you continued to see him grow from that experience?
Well, obviously Mike is unique, and it's important, especially this time of year. Just as a whole, we're just trying to be as efficient as possible with the amount of time that we have with our players. The goal of getting everything installed before the end of next week is a goal. There's some things that you look at on offense. Tony Pollard would be another player that would be kind of in that category, but we're not doing it like we're specifically how we're handling Micah. So, I think just as a general rule, as much crossover that you can have, not only offensive coaches helping one player or two up. I think it's something that we've always encouraged. We refer to as across the hall as the interaction between the offensive and defensive coaches with the offensive and defensive players respectfully.
I don't think I even realized.
How's Tyler Smith looking? I saw he was at tackle a little bit today and at guard.
He's doing very well. I think you're going to start seeing these guys, and I'm not pointing directly at Tyler because I just was trying to watch the tape before I come in here. You're going to start seeing these guys hit the wall a little bit. We had 2 weeks to work on installs 1 and 2, and then this week we did 3 and 4. Coming off this break's always a challenge. You fatigue injuries and things like that. Next week's going to be a grinder because we'll do 4 installs over the course of next week, or I might even have to change that to get it to mini camp. So it just to answer I think I'm doing a really good job keeping up. You can only compare this class probably to last year's class, similar opportunity to come into the league. The offseason program was different last year, but this group's clearly ahead of where we were last year. I think the job that the players and coaches did from the day they were drafted or signed and free agents, those 2 weeks before, the rookie orientation camp, and then, coming right into the integration with the veterans. This is clearly the smoothest, group that we've had, and it's just real credit to the extra time they've put in.
How's Tyler handling the reps going from tackle to guard as a rookie and in the same practice? And a lot of times you don't want a guy learning 2 positions because you're on the same side.
Yeah, it's tough. There's no doubt about it. It's tough. So we're just trying to be smart, how we do it. But because same breath, we don't want to hold up progress, just based off of 2 positions. So, but I think he's done a nice job so far.
What does that say about him that he's able to manage that?
Oh, yeah. No, I love the way he's wired. He's very aggressive, has an alpha personality even as a young man. So he'll continue to grow, but I think he's impressed the veteran players so far.
I don't think I even realized the nuances between the left tackle and left guard position until I talked to him today. But given that you think that he's so aggressive, was that why there was such a mindfulness about getting him into those positions and getting some fluidity about position flex early on, as opposed to getting him settled in one spot?
Yeah,
Just
definitely.
follow that?
Well, there's a big picture part to this too. I think anytime you have, you bring in new players to your organization, you want to, create opportunities for them to be successful, and that's really what this is about. So, I think he's, seems a little more natural at guard right now. I know he's played tackle in college, but he's his aggressive nature bonds well for him in there. So, I think it's a real credit to him that, because of his physical gifts. That when he needs, when young players, hit a crutch point, how they react, and his reaction is to, maybe jump set a guy, be aggressive. So, obviously, I think that's a little bit more challenge out there on the edge with the type of players you're going against, particularly the pass rushers too. So, but hey, we haven't put the pads on, yet. I never get really excited this time of year. I'm just trying to get everything taut. I really keep my eye on the target as far as just making sure they understand what they need to do. So hopefully nobody disappears that's having a great off-season program, but it has happened. So
I know we talked to you a lot last year, just as far as the template you and Dan were looking for, defensive players, a little longer wingspan. And we kind of seen that from what you've done in the offensive line, what you're looking for there, and last year with Ball, and then the two guys this year. You just want the big mauler type of guys. Is that the sort of prototype you're looking for?
Well, length and athletic ability. I go back to the interview process with Jerry Jones and just talking about, profiles of, what you look for in offensive, defensive linemen. I just pointed to the pictures on the wall from the 90s. You look at the length of those, of the offensive, defensive line during the heyday here. So, and it's something that I was always impressed with from the opposite sideline, particularly their offensive line. We had a defensive scheme change, so I think we did a heck of a job all the way through. Player personnel, player acquisition, as far as flipping the defense last year, and then we even add to it again this year too. So we're definitely longer, we're bigger up front, and I like our numbers of pass rushers, and we've definitely increased the team speed at linebacker too. So that was all part of the focus from day one.
Now that everyone is settling in, what has been your favorite part as veterans and rookies mesh together?
My favorite part?
Yeah.
It's not there yet. I think it's, watching the guys grow and connect a little bit. The gap's still there, and the gap's it'll continue through next week. I think it's only practical because everything they do next week will be new. 4, 5, 6, and 7. 6, 7. 5, 6, 7, 8 next week will be, totally new to the rooks, where the veterans already had it. So, but yeah, I think the mini camp is when you can kind of start seeing the light a little bit. And but I'd say my favorite part is just to have all 90 of them here.
What's caught your attention about Ridgeway?
He's the anchor. He's a little more athletic than I thought he was. Obviously, his length and size was the attraction, but he plays laterally. Down the line of scrimmage is what you're looking for too. So, but he's definitely the anchor we thought he would be. So, seems very natural for him. He's picked it up clean, so he's off to a good start.
Right, going back to Tyler Smith, there's a school of thought, put a guy at one spot, coming in to the league, let him get good at one, and then obviously mix him at both spots, left guard, left tackle. But I'm sure you've seen it both ways, and so what has your experience been? And clearly you like to get him ready at a couple positions.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to make sure you give him a chance to compete, to play. He was selected in the first round for a reason. I think we all got to recognize that as a coach. When you're younger, you want to turn a blind eye or a blind ear, a deaf ear to it. Well, that's not the facts, and that's not the reality of it. And he's earned that opportunity, based on where he was selected, and I think that's important to recognize that. But in the same breath, there's a long-term vision to this too, and it's big picture, because I think when you get your 8 linemen this is the way my mind works. I'm thinking about the 53. I'm thinking about game day. I'm thinking about who's going to be up, who's going to be down. So you want to try to find, if you got, because anybody that can play two positions, it's something we talk about a ton. Will and I have this conversation daily when we're looking at players, and just, the individual we're looking at this morning, does he do two things? I think it's important for players, unless they're a quarterback or, kicker, that they're a specialty position, that they have to offer, to bring two things to the table, because if they don't, their ability to be up on game day is obviously limited.
On the other side, Micah was talking about the adjustments that he expects teams to kind of make to him this year, whether treating him like a big or a little in different ways like that. How do you, is this a different situation than one that you've experienced with a guy who can do both things so well? And if so, how do you try and help him continue the success when it's kind of a new world to have the guy who can do both so well?
I went down this road with Clay Matthews. We had some injuries inside linebacker position, and I thought it really served him well as far as creating more opportunities for matchups. But what I really found out is how much it benefited our defense. So, and you definitely saw that with us last year with Micah. And I have news for you: he'll be declared a big. So I don't think anybody's going to be declaring him as a small. So, or what your lingo is, but. Yeah, it's and that's what this league is, and that's the beauty of competing in this league is, he's going to see more challenges. Whether he's inside, outside, he'll definitely be targeted. In the protection schemes.
What do you think?
I would anticipate that.
What do you think of the notion of what Micah did last year, sparking a little something in DeMarcus for this year, and him wanting to?
All motivation's good. I saw DeMarcus's comments, so I think that's healthy. And that's really part of the competition, and also too, D-Law's got a lot of pelts on the wall, and I think as players, move through their career, they're always looking for another way to be challenge themselves and so forth. So I think it's extremely healthy.
We've talked so much about the second-year jump. Does the way you want to go about a second-year jump differ if you have a season as successful as Micah did as a rookie?
I'm sure I'm farther.
You talked a lot about how important that first off-season is to make the second-year jump from rookie players to second years. A lot of times that's because they might not have shown what they're capable of in the first year. For someone who has as much success as Mike in their first year, how does that change the way you want to improve toward your second?
Well, there's a lot more to the second year jump than just your statistics of how you play on Sundays. It's how you what kind of teammate are you? How do you interact in the locker room? Are you making the others better around you? I talk a lot to our players, and it's something that I learned as a head coach. You get in some of these meetings and you're talking about different players, and I think it's important to recognize that every one of these players is a really good football player. There's no such thing as he can't play or that guy's, and that's more of a respect coming from someone that didn't play in the league. But they're all really good players. And then I think the next thing is you got good players that have great moments. That would be the second category. And then the third category, I say, you got great players that are just individually are able to perform at an extremely high level consistently. And then the top one is the elite players. And that's what we're all hoping that these guys develop, because the elite players make players better around them. So those are the four categories. With that, obviously Micah had a lot of great moments last year, but our desire and it needs to be his desire is for him to be an elite player, not just a great player, because the elite ones bring everybody with them, and how they work, how they compete in practice, how they compete in the weight room, how they compete at garbage can basketball in the locker room. I don't know. It's just all that's all part of culture growth and establishing that, and that's something that he has an opportunity to really make a huge impact in our football team. So that's all part of that. Would all be part of the second year jump criteria that I would view Micah.
Have you talked to them about that, and how do you balance that with?
You think I just saved this for you, or what?
I have another.
I've been waiting for you to ask. I thought you would ask too.
I was jumping, but I'm trying to. How do you balance that with? He clearly is enjoying the offseason. He's everywhere, hockey games, basketball games. He's enjoying being a Cowboy this offseason. How do you balance what you're talking about, that focus of being an elite player with.
I'll just say this: of all the years I've talked about and emphasized making a second-year jump, the Dallas Cowboys is the biggest challenge ever. So, and that's going to be part of his challenge. He's been extremely celebrated and so forth, and he's done a lot. I don't think he's missed a hockey game. I don't think he's missed anything. So, outside of here, but yeah, but that's all part of that's all part of the challenge. Yeah, it's a great point.
We've seen Malik Hooker make a play in team drills today. When you took over,
Sorry, John, what's
Malik Hooker,
Okay, yeah.
make the interception today. When you took over this team, you looked at the roster. How important was improving at safety? And if it was, is it finally where you wanted it to be?
Yeah, I mean, we had good safeties here when I first got here, so I never. But I think it's like a lot of things in coaching, and plus, you have the business component, which drives a lot of this, or you can say most of it. The biggest thing that I've always really focused on is the ball skills. It's there's some very talented receivers that bring a lot, but if their ball skills are in question, I would like to, I always have a tendency to go lean away from those guys, and it's the same. I view the defensive backs the same way. So I think the thing, if you look at our secondary, and it was clearly evident in the takeaways, our guys our ball skills have definitely improved in my time here from year 1 to year 2, and we're hoping to take another step. So, and Malik is, JK and all those guys are part of that. So, he definitely has the ball skills that you're looking for. But the thing with Malik is the ability to play up and back is something that was, I wasn't 100% sure just because of the way he played in Indianapolis and he had all the injuries. So, but he's become a very diverse. Look at Dono too. I mean, his ball skills. I mean, guys that get their hands on the ball. It's all about that turnover differential. I mean, it starts in the player evaluation process.
Mike, we saw Michael Gallup doing a little bit on the side with the boards and all that too. I mean, how encouraging is that to see him already doing some stuff there on the practice?
Yeah, I mean, it really is, and I'm happy for him because Michael's. I mean, I have my lap that I do, through the training room, and he's in there every day. He's here all the time. So I mean, he's put a ton. He's doing everything he's supposed to be doing. So it's nice to see him get over those thresholds. And when they do have the opportunity to get out on the field with Britt, that's a big moment because Britt's the best. He's the best in the business of bringing players back. So, but Michael's making really good progress.
Cox had a similar injury. Cox, do you expect him to be ready for camp?
Yeah, he's doing really well too. I mean, I would say the same thing about Jabril. He's been here nonstop, throughout the off season since the season ended too. So he's doing really well.
Are they ahead of schedule?
I don't know. I haven't looked at my calendar that closely.
Darn it, I thought you did.
I don't. Yeah. Medical timelines, Mike, is not my specialty.
He's zoned out.
Yeah, he's busy. Yeah.
We've talked to Dak and Jalen Tolbert, among others, about how Dak called the receivers in that pre-draft process. You had mentioned it.
Yeah.
Dak said one of the reasons it meant a lot to him was just knowing how the front office and y'all value his opinion. In your experience as a coach, how much is the right amount of input to give a quarterback, particularly someone who's the leader of the team like him, and how has that input helped your team?
I think it's extremely important, and and just having a quarterback background, I mean, their opinions always mattered. And in this particular case, with Dak, and the thought of drafting a number of offensive players, and this is part of the conversation that him and I had is, this is a group that you're going to grow up with. This is a group that you're going to, help train and help, mentor and so forth. So why wouldn't you want his input on that, or at least have him connect? And let's be honest, he has excellent people skills. I think he has a really good filter of dealing with people and understanding people. So I think it's something that is important, and I think it also already starts the process. And then these guys are drafted or signed as free agents, and he's already had a connection, or he's already had a starting point with them.
Why was it this year? He said this was the first year you guys had done that. So I'm just curious, is that just a result of you finally really getting time with these guys? We've already talked about it. Already feels a little bit different around here, like it's back to normal. And getting to know the personalities. I know you've kind of highlighted even in here, I may not have played football, but so you're tapping in with these guys somehow. So how are you doing
didn't play
it?
in
Is
the
it ways
NFL.
like that? In the NFL.
Okay.
But,
Well, I just want to get the story
Well,
right.
my point is, in other words, are you finding
so.
ways to tap in with these guys and their personalities that's endearing them? And some of that has come from conversations
Yeah.
in the last 2 years that, hey, we value your input and we want you to have a say in this roster.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think this is our first normal year. I mean, this is what it's supposed to be like, and it does feel good in as far as the progress we make. Because I mean, the only thing we can compare it to is last year. I mean, that's just the reality of where we are, in our program. So we're clearly way ahead of where we were this time last year, and that's a good thing. But it also it's about the expectations of what this offseason is about. This offseason program, with all the participation that we've had, has been outstanding, but it really sets you up to have an excellent training camp, and that's really what the offseason gives you. And that's why these rookies in particular have an understanding of everything that's expected of them, and you want it to be reviewed when you go to Oxnard. I mean, there shouldn't be a whole lot of questions asked when we get to California. It's more correction of video and connection. We've gone through collection of players. We're working on our connection. To me, when we get to California, it's by connecting and correcting and just continue to grow.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I thought you were going to break into Jerry Jones, so the Wagons of California, you heard that?